Scenes of celebration in Thailand after a general election where out is a former coup leader backed by the military and the conservative elites. In is a coalition led by a U.S.-educated businessman who campaigned for an end to mandatory conscription and a stiff prison sentence for those who dare criticize the monarchy. Well, for more, let's cross to David Camroux, who is Honorary Senior Research Fellow and Adjunct Professor at the French Political Science Institute, Sciences Po. Thanks for joining us.
Real pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
How big a surprise is this result?
It's not a surprise, but the result is just the beginning of a process, because the Prime Minister will be chosen not simply by the lower house of Parliament, where both parties together clearly have a majority of, I think, altogether 292 seats out of the 400 seats in the lower house, the 500 seats in the lower house, rather. But the Prime Minister is also chosen by the Senate, which has 250 members, and the Senate consists entirely of appointees, most of whom have been appointed by the military. So while clearly this vote was a clear referendum on the military and on the establishment around the monarchy, it is not necessarily going to lead to the transformation that the voters have voted for.
Certainly has thrust into the spotlight Pita Limjaroenrat, 42 years old, the head of the Move Forward party, who even leapfrogged the party of exiled former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. Let's take a look at this profile.
A new progressive force in the landscape of Thai politics. Pita Limjaroenrat has led his party to victory in the lower house of Parliament. Now he says he's ready for the top job.
People of Thailand have already spoken their wish, and I am ready to be the Prime Minister for all, whether you agree with me or you disagree with me.
The 42-year-old has built a large support base among young Thais, often from urban areas, who are fed up with pro-military conservative leadership. He's already vowed to push ahead with a move to change the country's controversial royal defamation law, which can put people in jail for up to 15 years for anything deemed as an insult to Thailand's royal family. His other promises include promoting small businesses, curbing monopolies, and ending military conscription.
Move Forward has welfare policies, but Move Forward moves to a new frontier. It's no longer about populism. So actually, they have tapped into a lot of sentiments that have been feeling, I think, that Thailand needs to change. And that change has to do with the reform of the military, the monarchy, getting rid of the draft.
Limjaroenrat spent time in New Zealand as a teenager before studying in Bangkok and then at Harvard in the US. He's also a businessman and was only 25 when his father died, forcing him to return to Thailand to take over the family's struggling agriculture company. One of the younger candidates of Thailand's election, Limjaroenrat is also popular on social media, often posting photos with his 7-year-old daughter. But in a country where military coups and court orders have often trumped the ballot box, his success in the election doesn't necessarily mean the road to Prime Minister will be a smooth one. He needs to gather enough votes in Parliament to make up for military-appointed Senate members. Support from the runner-up Pheu Thai party is a strong start.
And we're with David Camroux of the French Political Science Institute, Sciences Po. Pita Limjaroenrat finishing ahead of the party of the Shinawats.
Yes, in fact, he doubled the number of seats of the party which had been disbanded and then renamed. He doubled it from about 80 to 151, whereas Pheu Thai, the party of Thaksin Shinawatra's youngest daughter, only increased their number of seats by 5. So it is a really significant development. And it's also a development which expresses, and this is the important thing, an underlying social movement, a social transformation. We now have two parties the Pheu Thai, which has its support base, its constituency amongst the rural communities, especially in the north and northeast, and Move Forward, whose constituency, his support base, is amongst young urban dwellers who voted overwhelmingly for it. So behind it also is a rejection, not just of the military establishment, not just of the old establishment, but a rejection of a certain sort of patriarchal society. It's now time for the youth, the millennial generation, Generation Z, to find their place in the sun, politically speaking. And it's also a time for women. I mean, Peter Wadkon's Shinawat Thaksin's daughter, campaigned, when she was 8 months pregnant, and the photos of her with her baby, which was born during the campaign, sort of contrast very much with this idea of the king as the father of the nation, because who needs a father now that, in a sense, we have a place for women in politics in Thailand.
But as you said earlier, the Senate has its say. What's going to happen?
Well, there are two scenarios, and there's also the role of the king. But the first scenario is they build up a sufficient coalition. There's talk of 4 parties being involved they've got to get to a 375 seats. And so far, the two of them only have 290. So they've got to bring in other parties. That's one possibility. The second is they've got to win over some senators who will see the writing on the wall and implore them to accept the results of the ballot box. But of course, the joker in the pack, to excuse the pun, is the king, because although he will not intervene directly, behind the scenes, he and the Privy Council and those in what was often called the network monarchy will be also trying to see, will they accept, in fact, the election of this young leader as prime minister and this new coalition coming from the opposition.
And just very briefly, we're out of time. Prayut Chan-o-cha, will he go quietly?
It seems that he will go quietly. I mean, he's had his time, and he seems that he will accept the decision. Also, the military is divided. His deputy prime minister ran for another party, which did much better than the party that he created for himself. So it really is an incredible slap in the face for him.
Change in Thailand. We'll see how it develops. Many thanks, David Camroux, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Stay with us. Much more to come. More news, plus the day's business and sports.